and I'm very proud today to be able to tell you a little bit about my life. I was born during the war in Scotland, in a small town called Mulgai, and it was close to Glasgow. Now my mother, she was holidaying actually in Helensburgh during the war, and the Canadian soldiers arrived. And the people in Scotland were really happy with the Canadians. They loved them. They just thought they were coming to save them from the enemy. There was a lot of bombing going on, and the war was on, and they needed reinforcements. So they were really happy to see the Canadians, and they really loved them. Anyway, my mother and father met there in Helensburgh. And a couple of years later, they were married, and a couple of years later, I was born. And we lived there for about 2 years and 4 months, actually. And they came back home after the war, back home to Canada. And life was a little different, of course, here. My mother had a lot of adjusting to do. It was a different life altogether. But they settled down and had 6 children. Now, one of the things I'd like to speak to you about today is the effect that the war had on my father. When he came back, he was really nervous. He had, I guess what's termed today as post-traumatic stress. His mother actually gave him tasks to do to help settle him down, like he would do jigsaw puzzles, Mom told us, and that helped him somewhat. But he had difficulty with people. He would relive the war sort of thing. During a lightning or a thunderstorm, the loud noises really bothered him. He associated it with the bombs that he had experienced during the war. He never talked much about the war, actually, but in the later years he did tell my brother a few things. And he told us that when he arrived in England in the big ship that they sailed over in, it was torpedoed, and a lot of the soldiers landed in the water, and he was one of them. And he had to be plucked out of the water with it was like a big hook, I guess, that they rescued him out of the water. That was one experience. And he also talked about the time of the Normandy invasion, when they crossed the English Channel in a big barge, I guess it must have been. And the soldiers had to get off this barge and wade in the water and land on the Normandy beach. And it was under gunfire, and it was in the night, in the darkness, because that's when they had to invade other areas because they wouldn't be seen so well. And I guess for a while he was hiding. After they got on the land in France, they hid in barns and hid in old buildings. And another little story he told was one time he and another group of soldiers crossed the River Rhine, and they were trying to get onto this island, but what they were on, I'm not sure what kind of boat it was. Again, it must have been a raft of some kind that would hold a few soldiers. They were sailing across, or trying to get across this river. And the River Rhine is quite a large river, which runs down through Germany and France and right down through that country. They were trying to get over there onto an island. And they did get on the island, and they secured the island, but it was successful because they went farther downstream than what they expected. And they came in behind the German soldiers that were there. And that was a successful invasion that they had. And a few other things, but mostly I wanted to speak about the effect, I guess, that it had on him. He had difficulty with people when he came back. He couldn't get into a store, into a crowd, into a church, or any place where there were a lot of people. It was the, I guess you'd call it social phobia. He was nervous around people. And another thing is, Mom would tell us that in the night he would relive all these experiences of the war. Like he'd hear the bombs, and he'd be in combat. And I guess that never really went away. It stayed with him throughout his life. And we saw some effect of that because he couldn't relax. He couldn't be as happy as he normally would. Actually, his mother said he came back from the war a different man. And I guess he never really did get over the shock, shell shock, I guess they call it. But we had a good life. There were 6 children, and we did a lot of things on the farm. Like we loved our animals, and we always had lots of meat and lots of vegetables. We always had a large garden, and we had a happy life. We had hens, we had lots of fresh eggs, and that was our life, I guess.